After adding members into the project, the next step will be to add tools into the project. Click on the Tools tab. Two buttons can be seen: Add My Tool, Create New Tool. Click on Add My Tool button to add existing tool that you have created before. So in this case, I would add OHIP 14. Click on Confirm. So OHIP 14 is now added into your project. Click on Create New Tool to create a new tool for your project. So tool name is mandatory. Click on the Save button. 3 tabs would appear after saving: Forms, Rules, Share. Under Forms, click Create. Form name is mandatory. Click on the Save button, and the question setup field would appear after saving. Click on the plus button to add new question. We are able to edit the question number because some questions might have question 1A, question 1B, question 1C, and so on. Or it can also be question A, question B, question C, and so on. So I'll be using just question 1. So input text question would be, an example would be, do you feel pain in your mouth? Okay, so there is the component type for you to select after your question. Click on the drop down list. We have radio button, chat box, radio button matrix, chat box matrix, date picker, text, slider, and slider with default value 1 to 10. So I will choose radio button. Okay, so the next thing to do will be options. So we can determine how many options we want for the question by clicking on the add option icon here, this plus icon. Okay, so in this case, I would want to have just yes or no. Right, so my option will be yes, no. Okay, the next thing to do will be to add question. Click on this add question again to add question 2. And as you can see, our system has incorporated the autosave feature. The moment you add a question, the form would be autosaved. So question 2, input question, an example will be, how often do you feel pain in your jaw? Okay, so in this case, same thing, I will select radio button. Okay, I will have 4 options. Okay, never, seldom, often, always. Okay, so let's say question 3 comprises of a similar question with the same options. What we can do is, instead of adding a new question, we have this feature called duplicate. By clicking on this duplicate button, our system is actually able to copy the whole question 2, as you can see, to the next line. So what we can do is just change question 3 and the question. So how often do you feel pain in your maybe gums? So what I need to do is just to change the word jaw into gums, and all the options stay the same. The next thing to do would be if your question have scores. For example, never will be 0, seldom will be 1, often 2, always 3. Alright, if let's say there are no scores, you can just leave them blank. Okay. After setting up all your questions, we can also look at preview. So preview would be to show how your form looks like after entry. Okay, so now we go back to question setup. I would like to point out the differences between radio button and chat box. For radio button, you can only select one answer per question, whereas for chat box, you are able to multi-select answers. Okay, so once we are done, we will go to the rules tab now. This is to create the rules for our form. So we can click on the create button. Diagnosis, okay, is the mandatory field. So total score, for example. Okay, the form. Okay, we click the drop down. In this case, there's only one form, which is the demo form that we just created. Click on it, and all the questions will be listed out. So we have the formula. We can input formula. Okay, so total score. Okay, it will be question 1 plus question 2 plus question 3. Okay, alternatively, we have input Excel calculation format, meaning, like for example, for Excel total sum, okay, it will be sum, okay, bracket, question 1, okay, colon, all the way to question 3. Okay, this would also means question 1 plus question 2 plus question 3. Okay, so this Excel format is useful for questions like you have 14 over question or you have 22 questions and you want to calculate the total score. It will be much easier to type sum bracket question 1 colon question example 22 then close bracket. That will means that question 1 plus question 2 plus question 3 all the way to question 22. Okay, so we can also add classification for the rule type that is score. We click on add classification button. Okay, so classification will be an example will be mountain. Okay, so condition could be smaller or equals to, let's say, the total score of example 3. So we can also add another classification, say a moderate pain. So it can be in a range form, so 3 to example 8. Okay, then we can also add one more classification, severe pain. Okay, so it can be greater or equals to 9. So sorry, this should be 4. Okay, 4 to 8 will be moderate, severe will be greater or equal to 9. Okay, so this is the rule setup for score type. Okay, another type will be the flow type. Okay, so an example will be, let's say, the name. Okay, we can say flow 1. So the block condition, so we can have a question. Okay, let's say question 1, only if your condition is selected yes. Okay, then we can add a condition below. Okay, maybe N. N would means that question 1, if a selection is yes, and say question 2, okay, your selection is equals to always. Okay, so this name, okay, is flow 1. Diagnosis follow-up could be an example, maybe mouth cancer. Okay, just an example. So for this diagnosis, mouth cancer to occur, there are two conditions that you need to satisfy. One would be, do you feel pain in your mouth? Yes. And how often do you feel pain in your jaw? Always. If these two selections is selected, our system would diagnose that this subject has mouth cancer. And just an example. Okay, we can also have or. Okay, or would means that either question 1 selected is yes, or question 2 selected is always, will trigger this diagnosis as mouth cancer. We can add more block below. Okay, so let's say block 2 condition. Okay, I select. So question 3, how often do you feel pain in your gums? So condition, if I select equal, okay, we have equal contain. Okay, so equal would be let's say always. Okay, and we can multi-select also often. Okay, we will just put always, okay, for demo purposes. Okay, always. So okay, right now is let's say question 1 selection is yes, okay, or question 2 selection is always. Okay, if either of one is selected, we move on to the next block condition. Okay, for this it will be, how often do you feel pain in your gums? So equals always. So if these two blocks conditions are selected, our system would generate this diagnosis called mouth cancer. Alright, this is for the flow type. So we have, I've went through the score type and the flow type. Okay, so okay, that's it. Let me use the OHIP14 as an example. Okay, so now we will move to details. Okay, if you realize the top part here, projects, detail tool, all these are actually clickable. It will bring you back to the previous page. So it's actually like a shortcut link to navigate through your project. Navigate through your project. So we click on the detail. Okay, we will go back to the tools with the details here. So I will show you the example of the OHIP14, which I have actually done beforehand. So we can click in. Alright, so there are actually 14 questions. So we can go to preview. Yep, and you can see that all 14 questions have been set up. Alright, okay, so now we same thing, go back to tool. Okay, now we will go to rules and we can take a look. Okay, so handicap, all the subgroup has already been created. So click on total OHIP14 score. Okay, so you can see sum bracket question 1 all the way to 14. Alright, okay, so this is score type. Okay, so for flow type, let me show you all an example. It would be okay, DCTMD axis 1. Okay, rules. So for example, degenerative joint diseases. So if I click in, okay, so this has been already pre-created, so the rule type is flow. Okay, so we have actually two block conditions. Alright, so we actually have two blocks. So the first block condition is for the symptom questionnaire 8. In the last 30 days, have you had any jaw joint noises? So if the selection is yes, or okay, question examiner form 6, question 6b for patient, if the patient has detected any noises, okay, so condition is any. Okay, we have condition any. So as long as any of these options is selected, okay, or SQ8 is selected yes, okay, it would trigger to the next block. Okay, next block, the flow states that for examiner, okay, if examiner has detected any crepitus noises, okay, so yes, any, okay, so we select these two. So if this condition for E6A and or E7A also applies, okay, our system will show degenerative joint diseases. Okay, let me show you an example of a score type rule. So okay, we pick for example Fonseca. Okay, we go to rules. Okay, click into the diagnosis. Okay, here you can see diagnosis is TMD severity. Rule type will be score. So we scroll down, we can actually see that the formula is sum question 1 to question 10. Okay, and we also have classification. No TMD is between score of 0 to 15. Mild TMD will be 20 to 40. Okay, and so on. Alright, so now let me show you an example of a flow type rule. Okay, flow type will be DCTMD axis 1. Okay, so the rules. Okay, let me pick degenerative joint disease. Alright. So for this diagnosis, degenerative joint disease is a flow type. So there's actually one flow. Okay, it has two blocks. So block 1 has 3 conditions, while block 2 has 2 conditions. So let us take a look at block 1. Okay, so block 1, these 3 conditions are SQ8, okay, if it's yes, or E6B, any of this selection is selected, or E7B, any of this selection is selected. Okay, so just let me explain this, how this chatbot metric works. Is that your options are here, then this represents the right side and this represents the left side of your face. Yep. Okay, so block 2 conditions will be E6A for examiner, okay, if any of this is selected, or E7A for examiner, any of these two is selected. Okay, so as long as block 1 condition is fulfilled and block 2 conditions is also fulfilled, our system would show the diagnosis of degenerative joint disease.